Welcome back. Today we continue with the journey of Israel in Exodus, chapter 13. This chapter follows the great deliverance from Egypt and focuses on God's instructions for His people as they begin their walk toward freedom. The Lord spoke to Moses and gave a very important command. Consecrate to me all the firstborn. This meant that every firstborn child and animal in Israel belonged to God. It was a reminder of how God had spared the firstborn of Israel on the night of the Passover, while the firstborn of Egypt were struck down. By dedicating the firstborn, the people would never forget that their lives and their freedom were given to them by God's mighty hand. Moses then told the people to always remember the day they came out of Egypt. They were not to eat leavened bread during this remembrance. Instead, for 7 days they were to eat only unleavened bread, and on the 7th day they were to hold a feast to the Lord. This festival, known as the Feast of Unleavened Bread, would be celebrated every year, generation after generation. The bread without yeast symbolized their haste in leaving Egypt and the purity God desired in their lives. Moses also reminded them to teach their children the meaning of this observance. When their sons would ask, "Why do we do this?" they were to answer, "It is because of what the Lord did for us when we came out of Egypt." This way, every generation would know that it was not their own strength, but the power of God that delivered them from slavery. The Lord also commanded that every firstborn male animal be set apart for Him. Some animals, like donkeys, had to be redeemed with a lamb. In the same way, the firstborn sons of Israel had to be redeemed, showing that God claimed them as His own. This too was to serve as a sign on their hands and between their eyes, reminding them daily of God's mighty power. When Pharaoh finally let Israel go, God did not lead them through the shortest route, which passed through the land of the Philistines. God knew that if the people faced war so soon, they might lose heart and return to Egypt. Instead, He led them on a longer path, through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. God's way was not always the easiest, but it was the safest and the best for His people. On their journey, Moses also carried with him the bones of Joseph. Long ago, Joseph had made Israel promise that when God delivered them, they would carry his remains to the promised land. Now, that promise was being fulfilled. Finally, God Himself guided His people in a visible way. By day, He led them with a pillar of cloud, and by night, with a pillar of fire. The cloud gave direction, and the fire gave light, so they could travel by day or by night. God's presence never left them, showing that He was not just their deliverer but also their faithful guide. In conclusion, Exodus 13 teaches us about remembering God's salvation, teaching the next generation, dedicating ourselves to Him, and trusting His guidance. Just as He led Israel, God continues to lead His people today, sometimes by paths we do not expect, but always with love and faithfulness.